Let's look at this set. Four teams A, B, C, D participate in a round robin football tournament. Each will play against each other team exactly once. So there will be 6 matches in total. 4C2 is 6. Over the next 3 days, on each day, 2 matches are scheduled such that all the four teams play on each of the days. So there are 3 days, day 1, day 2, and day 3. Okay. The following table gives the number of goals scored by each of the four teams on each of the 3 days. On day 1, A scored 2, B scored 0, C scored 3, D scored 1. On day 2, A scored 1, B scored 0, C scored 1, D scored 0. On day 3, A scored 0, B scored 1, C scored 1, D scored 2. Okay. A win is awarded 3 points, a draw is awarded 1 point, and a loss does not result in getting any points. So, based on this information, given there are 6 matches, can I say if every match ends in a decisive result, the maximum points obtained by all the four teams together is 18. The maximum points obtained by all the teams together is 18. All 6 matches end in decisive results. 3 points are distributed. The minimum points obtained by all the four teams together, if all the 6 matches ended in a draw, in a draw, one team gets 1 point, the other team also gets 1 point. So in a draw, 2 points are distributed. If all 6 matches end in a draw, all the teams together will get 12 points. So maximum points obtained by all the four teams across these 6 matches is 18, and minimum points obtained by all these 6 teams across these 4 matches is 12. Now this last line, after 3 days, it was found that all the four teams were tied with the points obtained by them. So 4 teams, all of them have, let's say, X points. If all of them have X points, can I say that total points obtained by all the 4 teams together has to be a multiple of 4? It has to be 4x. Now 18 to 12, how many multiples of 4 can we see? We can see there are 2 multiples of 4, 12 and 16. Now in order to obtain 12, this was an extreme case. In order to obtain 12, we needed all the matches to end in draws. But when you look at day 1, can you see 2 matches were being held and the number of goals scored by none of the 2 teams, none of any combination of 2 teams is identical, which means on day 1, 2 decisive matches have taken place, which means the points scored by all the teams together will be 16, which now translates into, for 16 points by all the teams, what we need is 4 wins and 2 draws in the tournament. The wins will give us 4 into 3, 12 points, and the draws will give us 2 into 2, 4 points. Hopefully you understand when I'm saying 18, 12, 16, all this. I'm talking about all the 4 teams combined, not for a single individual team, because a single individual team can have a maximum of 9 points. The 3 matches that it plays, if it ends up winning all those 3 matches, it can have a maximum of 9 points. Here I'm talking of all the teams combined. This is how it will go. Okay, absolutely wonderful. Now let's see. Look at this. On day 1, both the matches are supposed to end in decisive result. Who plays against whom, we don't know, but all the matches are supposed to end in a decisive result. On day 2, if 1 plays against 1 and 0 plays against 0, you have your 2 decisive result. You have your 2 draws. Otherwise, you can also have 1 playing against 0 and 1 playing against 0. You can have 2 decisive results. Here, on day 3, you have 2 against whoever he plays. Let's say this is definitely a win. This is definitely a win. And this is definitely a loss. This is definitely a win. This is definitely a loss. You can potentially have 1 draw on the 3rd day. But then if you have a draw on the 3rd day, on day 1, you cannot have any more draws. And on day 2, if you have 1 draw, you will also have another draw. Let's say we take out the match happening on day 3 was B versus C, and this was a draw. Now we will need 1 more draw from day 2. For 1 more draw on day 2, let's say it was B versus D, that was a draw. This was a draw. This was a draw. Can you see the other match A versus C will also be a draw, which will lead us to 3 draws, whereas we need only 2 draws, which is another way of saying, the two draws that have to take place, will necessarily take place on day 2. And the score lines of those draws is going to be 1-1 and 0-0. For the 1-1 match, it is going to be A versus C. And the 0-0, it is going to be B versus D. A versus C and B versus D. Now let's see for day 3. Now let's jump to day 3 directly. Look at this. This zero fellow can lose to 2 or can lose to 1. If he loses to 2, the scoreline in the match that A plays is 0-2. He loses to D, AD 0-2. Then can you see the other match between B and C will have to be a draw? And we know we only need 2 draws in the tournament and they have already been obtained. These are drawn matches. So A will not play against D. A will also not play against C because the match with C is already taking place on day 2. So the only match that A can play on day 3 has to be against B. A will play against B. Scoreline will be 0-1, in which B is winning. And therefore, the other match on this day will be C versus D, which D is winning. And now, because the 2 matches of A versus C is done, A versus B is done, on this day, A will play against D. 2-1, A wins. And here, C will play against B. C will win. So pay attention now. 4 points for every team. 1 win for A, 1 draw for A, 4 points. 1 win for C, 1 draw for C, 4 points. 1 draw for C, 1 draw for B, 1 win for B, 4 points. 1 draw for D, 1 win for D, 4 points. Everything is uniquely identified. We can get to individual questions. First one, which team did A play against on the 3rd day? On the 3rd day, he played against B. So option A. Which match saw the maximum number of goals in it? In this match, there were 3 goals. In this match, there were 2 goals. In this match, there was 1 goal. In this match, there were 3 goals. In this match, there were 0 goals. In this match, there were 3 goals. So A versus D, C versus B, and C versus D, all these 3 matches have maximum number of goals in them. So A versus D, yes. B versus C, yes. C versus D, yes. A versus C has only 2 goals, it should not be counted. Which match saw the maximum number of goals put in it? Answer should be option C, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Which of the following is necessarily true? On day 3, one of the matches ended in a draw. No, both the matches had decisive results on day 3. On day 2, none of the matches ended in a draw. No, both the matches on day 2 have to be a draw. C won the match that it played on day 3. No, C lost the match it played on day 3. And finally, B won the match that it played on day 3. Yes, B won the match against A it played on day 3. So option D. Last, what is the points that each of the teams scored at the end of the tournament? The points scored by each team at the end of the tournament is for 16 points overall. So 4 points per team, or 1 win, 1 draw, 4 points per team. Last, in all the 3 days put together, how many goals were scored against team B? Okay, so we have to add up this 3, then this 0, and then this 0. These are the goals scored against B. So 3 plus 0 plus 0, 3 goals were scored against team B. So correct answer has to be option B. And that is the entirety of this set.